Good afternoon, my dear brother Mathuki. Welcome to New York.
Thank you very much, my dear sister. Cristina Duarte.
Today, I have a pleasure to have this conversation as the Secretary General of the East Africa Community.
Yes.
As everybody knows, it's a success story in Africa as far as regional economic communities are concerned.
Yes.
Please tell us the journey that led to this positive case study.
Now, thank you very much for hosting us in New York, the silence of the UN General Assembly. But always a pleasure to discuss with you on how our regional economic blocks have continued to become the building blocks for the African Union. The East African community now is structured under the 4 pillars. And the first 4 pillars are economic pillars. The first one is the customs union, meaning that the East African community has a customs union, free movement of goods within East Africa. 2, we have the common market. The common market is a movement of goods, but also movement of services, goods, and capital within East Africa. And that now facilitates easy movement of people from one country to another. For example, moving from Kenya to Uganda, you don't need a passport. You use your national ID. Coming from Rwanda to Kenya is the same. And if you need your visa, tourist visa, going to any country, you go to Rwanda, you use the same visa to go to Kenya and Uganda. And that is to say, we are trying to make it indeed an integrated regional economic bloc where countries are working together. And the third pillar, which is now the monetary union, we're also moving towards saying, with all these global dynamics, we're thinking of a common denominator that we can use to facilitate trade within East Africa. And that's where we are saying we are now working towards a common currency within East Africa. And those 3 pillars is what drives the East African community. That is what has made the East African community as the most integrated regional economic bloc in Africa.
Yes,
And indeed, looking at now the latest figures now, we have 7 member states, partner states of the East African community. DRC just joined, and now we are talking of 300 million people in East Africa. That's a huge market. We are talking of the geographical coverage within East Africa now is actually 4.9 million square kilometers. That is enough land to produce enough food for our people in Africa. That is enough land to say we can make any factories that would add value within East Africa. And therefore now we encourage people to come and do foreign direct investment in East Africa to take advantage of that huge market. But also most importantly is, which I think is important, is a coastal line. Now, the coastal line of now East Africa, including Somalia, that has applied to join the East African community, is a total of about 5,000 kilometers, a coastal line, meaning that coming and accessing the East African community will be easier, will be cheaper. And also taking goods out of East Africa to the rest of the world will be cheaper. And therefore, East African community is growing enormously, and we are looking forward to including the countries around the Horn of Africa. And in another 2-3 years, we are going to have a huge market of close to 700 million people. And that is almost, I would say, a big portion of Africa's population.
Yes,
so we continue being a dynamic regional economic bloc, which is people-centered and which is private sector driven. And that is now the game changer of why our regional economic bloc continues to become the leading regional economic bloc in Africa. And we look forward to making it not only in Africa, but one of the most progressive regional economic blocs in the world. And therefore, looking at how, therefore, as regional economic blocs, how can we lessen the gap between us on the grassroots as regional economic blocs and the UN system? How can we start having a conversation of whatever is happening at the regional economic blocs can be listened, can be communicated more frequently to the UN so that you understand what the people of the world are saying. And this will be done through our collaboration and partnership.
Let me build on your response.
Yes.
You mentioned art, infrastructures.
Yes.
Correct? Roads, railways, you made.
Yeah.
Also, you mentioned soft.
Yes.
We need harmonized policy frameworks.
Yes.
Regulatory frameworks.
Yes.
And this is not so easy at the regional level. Please tell us how you succeed in undertaking, implementing a process where little by little you harmonize your policy frameworks, your regulatory frameworks.
Yes. And this is because of one of the legal framework that is existing. We have a treaty and we have protocols that facilitate these processes. For example, when we say we need a protocol that facilitates movement of goods.
Exactly.
So we have to invest in the infrastructure, both hard infrastructure and soft infrastructure. We must invest in like now we have 14 one-stop border posts at in our borders in East Africa.
Yes.
Meaning that has reduced the time of clearing goods from the coast to countries from 21 days to 3 days.
This is an amazing result.
Yes, we used to do 21 days movement of goods from Mombasa to 3 days.
3 days?
Yes. It used to, and this is because of we have invested in infrastructure around the border points, what you call one-stop border posts. Meaning that once you get your goods from the border, from the port, now you move freely all the way to the destination.
One-stop shop.
One-stop shop. And that is how we have made trade facilitation easy.
Have you used digitization?
And that is now what we are doing. We are rolling out now digitization. Meaning that if, for example, you got a cargo from the port and you have locked, you can track. We have an automatic digital tracking system that can tell you where your goods is, the container, and everything. And therefore, that even reduces the issues of risk, insurance, or loss of goods, and so forth. And that has made it very easy. Now we are going to the level of the e-commerce and payment of electronic payment systems, where you don't have to do electronic payment systems within the region, and therefore now that reduces time and cost of all these things. And when you come to, and that is now the soft part of it.
Exactly.
And that is why we are saying you must invest both in infrastructure, hard infrastructure, soft infrastructure, but legal framework that allows this to happen. And number 3 is about the political commitment, which is very important, where the political leadership is supporting what is happening. And once we put systems, we put laws in place, then other countries have to comply with what is happening. If you don't comply, we inform, and we have actually a court, East African Court of Justice, that is able to mediate whenever there are trade disputes and stuff like that. And all this is happening courtesy of the political goodwill of our countries, our political leaders in the region. And that's why you see the regional economic bloc is moving very fast towards supporting integration of the entire African continent.
Let me move to, I believe, another important and strategic subject for Africa.
Yes.
We all know that Africa, in the past 15 years, has been displaying an incredible growing middle class.
Yes.
Everybody knows.
Correct.
And this is market. Unfortunately, this growing middle class has been essentially, I would say, satisfied from a demand standpoint with imports. But we all know that a growing middle class is the critical ingredient to structure a strong takeoff of any industrialization process.
Correct.
We are talking about import substitution strategies.
Yes.
We know that 20 years ago, our first attempt, Africa's first attempt to roll out import substitution strategies faced a series of challenges, and we need to say we failed. Today is different.
Yeah.
Today, we have a vision. We still have, despite the gaps, we start having infrastructures, but above all, we do have a vision, Africa 2063. I strongly believe that import substitution can be the low low-hanging fruit to ignite a sustainable and long-term industrialization in Africa? I would like to know your opinion.
Absolutely. The import substitution schemes, we are running late. We should have started that a long time.
Yes.
And I think it's a high time now we come and say we need to add value to our goods. We need to move with what we have. And therefore, we totally subscribe to import substitution schemes if we want to grow as Africa. The next factory for the world is Africa.
Exactly.
Because one, we have the human capital, we have the natural resources, we have all it takes. But what is taking back us, as Africa back, is what we need to understand. And I think the solution lies in the import substitution schemes that we're going to deploy so that we can continue producing. We take advantage of what we have. We add value, and we now export outside Africa finished products. Because if we don't do that, then what is happening is that Africa continues to be a net,
an import dependent.
Yes.
An import dependent.
Precisely.
Which is today.
Yes, and that is why would that be happening? With a population of 1.4 billion people, and we are not taking advantage of this. And therefore, I think we totally agree that it's a high time we intensify the import substitution schemes in our continent so that our continent can become the economic leader in the world. And that is possible.
And the low-hanging fruit nature of import substitution strategies also links very well with the skills profile of African workforce.
Precisely.
Because when you are talking about import substitutions, we know that you are talking about essentially 95% of simple goods, toothpaste, for example, that Africa imports from A to Z.
Yes.
So even when a country decides to start an industrialization process by applying an import substitution strategy and looks at the profile or the skill profile of the workforce, the gap is much, much smaller. Because you don't need artificial intelligence to produce toothpaste.
No.
You don't need.
Not at all.
So it's easier, let's say, it's easier to combine the level of skills of Africans' workforce with putting into motion an import substitution strategy.
Yeah.
What is your opinion?
I think the game changer here is how can public sector, private sector, and academia work together.
Exactly.
They work together to ignite this and bring out this and say, we are ready to move towards this direction. And I think it's about partnerships. It's the high time we deploy partnerships between the private sector, the academia, the public, and we take advantage of the enormous resources that we have in Africa. And I am telling you, if we have that mindset, change of our mindset, because it's about mindset.
It's about the mindset.
It's a mindset.
I agree.
I am telling you where we are told, if you import this, is a better product, better quality. Who says that? So it's about mindset. Let us change our mindset as Africa and believe that we have what it takes. We have the human capital. We have the natural resources. We need now to have innovatively bring together partnerships of our institutions, of government together, private sector, academia, and I am telling you, this will be a game changer for our country.
You mentioned private sector.
Yeah.
Me and my team, we have been advocating the need for African governments to establish a compact with African private sector. Because I do see that in the next 20 years, there is a huge space to build win-win situations between African governments and African private sector.
Correct.
Import substitution strategy might be, again, the low-hanging fruit that will allow the SME sector in Africa
Precisely.
just jump.
Yes, I totally agree. And in fact, when you say of SMEs, look at that, and 70% of our people are employed in this sector of SMEs. So I think it's the high time we need to take advantage of this. And we say, private sector, wherever you are, don't wait to be invited on the table.
Exactly.
Join the table. Push yourself and join them the table. Add value to the ideas of government. See how you are going to work with governments to make a difference in Africa. Don't wait to be invited, because if you wait to be invited, it's an issue of, and that's why we are where we are in Africa, because we are waiting so much for you to be invited. Go on the table, give your ideas, sit down with government, give them your skills and understanding of how you want to transform things, and it will be done.
So it's time in Africa
It is
for us to create a positive complicity
Yes.
between African policymakers
Yes.
and African private sector.
Is the high time now, because this is the time. And we want to make that difference. And if we do that, in the next very short time, Africa will be the continent to watch.
Thank you, my dear brother.
Thank you very much.
For such strong words.
Thank you very much, and
A
looking
pleasure.
forward to this partnership, and let yourselves, as the UN system, appreciate what we are doing on the ground as African institutions.
Always.
Let's work together.
Let's work together.
Let's work together to transform the lives of our people in Africa. Everyone is looking upon ourselves to make
After
a
the
difference.
Secretary General reforms,
Yes.
the UN system is getting ready to become the preferred partner in Africa.
We need to continue pushing this. We should not get tired. We must, because we are doing it for the people of Africa.
Exactly.
Yes. So we should not get tired.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A
Thank
pleasure.
you. A pleasure too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Africa more times, as you do, and you did a good job in our last meeting on food security in Dar es Salaam.
Yes, it's another challenge.
Thank you. Yeah, which is another challenge.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.